All right, dude, we are live. What's up, guys? This is Dem Keys, and holy shit, dude, I wanted to start the stream earlier today, but then I just got carried away with other stuff that I was doing. There's a there's a small change that I maybe should start making, which I believe is the reason why I tend to get um too absorbed in the other thing that I'm doing. This is all very this is all very vague. It's not I'm not really being specific here, but yeah, I need to work on that. Because I feel like I would be a lot more productive if I just didn't do that. Like if I managed to push that, keep that to the side and, you know, then continue with my work, but it's not always that simple. That's part of the issue. Anyways, I so what did I do between yesterday and today? I did make a bunch of Actually, okay, hold on, dude. There's something I want to show you guys. Hold up. So check this out. This is vanilla NeoVim. Um, what was I gonna do? Oh yeah, sorry. Let's quit. There. Okay, so yesterday I was doing some research because at some point in time I want to try making a couple of like NeoVim tutorials, introducing people to NeoVim. I'm no expert in it, not by a long shot. There's still a lot that I have to learn about it, but I've used it long enough and I have enough experience with it that I feel at least a little bit confident to be able to teach people at the very least the basics of it. And at the very least, my aim would be to get people into using distributions, introduce the concept of distributions to people, because looking at this is what kind of both turns people off and also, at least for very new people, for like super beginners, it wait, hold on, what is this lag? Holy shit, what is this lag? That is some crazy lag, dude. Hold on, we need to I just noticed that was like a good 5 6 seconds. Yeah, now it's better. There you go. Holy shit, that was so long. I was waiting for that to come on screen, like in the RTMP feed. I can see the other end of the RTMP feed that gets like streamed to you guys. And it was so late. Holy shit. But anyways, okay. Um, this looking at this is kind of what it both turns people off in terms of uh, even considering using NeoVim, and it can also be daunting. It can be very intimidating for people who are complete beginners in NeoVim. And first of all, you have this, right? The thing looks just very plain, right? Um, when you're heading into this newly, you're going to do something like let's sum01. Okay, this is so now this is a buffer called sum01. If I decide to write, it's gonna write into, hold on, I need to see what the directory is. Okay, in here, did I create another directory? Yes, I did. So okay, quick thing, quick words, holy shit, quick thing before I go into that. I was asking Gemini, I was like, hey, so I have LazyVim installed. I've been using LazyVim for, oh hold on, we're dropping frames. I need to do something to fix this, so just wait. I'm gonna pause that other thing and hopefully we should be good now. Yeah, I think we're good now. So I was asking Gemini, I was like, see, I've been using NeoVim, specifically LazyVim for a good year now. But I'm wondering, is there any way that I can, for whatever reason, to switch to vanilla NeoVim. So NeoVim without any custom configs, custom key maps, any plugins, or anything like that. NeoVim in its default state without any sort of customizations, completely ignoring the LazyVim, distribution that I have installed. Is there any way for me to check out that um, without having to explicitly uninstall LazyVim? And without affecting my current LazyVim installation negatively, because I do have a bunch of customizations that I've done even within LazyVim. Like I installed the LazyVim distribution, but then I also have a couple of extra plugins that I've installed, which are not a part of LazyVim. I have a couple of configs that I've done, which are also not part of LazyVim. I think I've also created some key maps which are also not part of LazyVim. They're like my own customizations that I've done. So I don't want to break my current or modify my current LazyVim um, distribution in any way. I just want to have the opportunity to use vanilla NeoVim without any sort of plugins or any customization or anything. And I want to be able to seamlessly switch between the two. So Gemini explained this to me. Gemini said that you have you have your data in three main directories, because I asked Gemini that, okay, so okay, wait, let me so there were three options that Gemini suggested. I don't remember one of them, but I do remember two. The first option was using the clean flag. So if I do neovim clean, then it opens up NeoVim like this. Whereas if I open up NeoVim, just by itself, this is my LazyVim distribution now. Now, um, I don't remember the specifics surrounding the clean flag. So give me a second here. Clean factory defaults, skip config and plugins and shared data. Okay. Now, this is one of the options that Gemini gave, that yeah, you could use the clean flag, so it's gonna then skip all of the configs that you've done, any custom key maps, any plugins that are installed. None of that stuff is going to be used. It's just gonna pretend like you're in a brand new installation, and none of those things exist. Shada is shared data, by the way. I found that out just yesterday after Gemini used the term, and then subsequently also mentioned that, yeah, this is what Shada means. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, okay. So clean is one option, right? Clean is one method. Clean is going to give you a completely clean slate. Like there's nothing that it's ignoring everything that you have currently installed. Everything that so everything that would be within your specific like NeoVim related directories. It's gonna ignore all of that. I think it has like its own like default directory with custom settings or with default settings that it's gonna look at in the case of the clean flag. But that's the clean flag, right? This is if you have done heavy customization, or better yet, you have installed an entire distribution on top of NeoVim, and you want to quickly switch to vanilla for whatever reason, you can just use the clean flag, and all of the distribution stuff is going to be ignored, and you're good to go, right? There might be another situation where maybe you want to try multiple different distributions for whatever reason. You might have your own reason for that. Maybe you want to use NeoVim in many different ways. One way might be using it as an IDE, another might be maybe using it as a highly advanced text editor or something like that. Or maybe in one case you have LazyVim installed, in another you have, I don't know, there was something called Luna, there was something else called Astro. There's a bunch of different ones. There's one called Kickstart. I believe that is meant to be um, something that you use to to learn how to customize NeoVim. I think that's the idea behind Kickstart. Let me just look that up because I remember when I was first learning about NeoVim and yeah, when I was first learning about Neo, or well, a year ago when I decided to go all in on NeoVim and properly learn it. Then when I discovered distributions, I came across a couple of different distributions. One was LazyVim, which when I looked it up, I was fully planning on installing it. And then when I was watching a tutorial video by somebody who is actually a maintainer of NeoVim, they're one of the contributors of Neo, or they're one of the devs of NeoVim. It's one of those things. I don't remember exactly what they mentioned. I believe they mentioned maintainer, which in a way like that does make them a dev because they're contributing to the project. But yeah, this person was making a tutorial on NeoVim configuration, and they were suggesting using Kickstart, installing the Kickstart distribution. Now, at the time, I didn't really understand what distributions were and how they work. So I asked Gemini that, hey, so I'm completely new to NeoVim, and I find this whole learning how to set up configs, how to set up key maps, how to install plugins, learning all of this stuff. And at the time, I also didn't know Lua at all. So like I that was another thing that made it a little more intimidating. So I was like, I kind of want to skip all of this stuff. I don't know about all this. That being said, right now I want to install this thing called Kickstart, this distribution called Kickstart. Um, I'm wondering if later I want to install LazyVim, would I be able to install that like directly on top of Kickstart? And Gemini said, no, it doesn't work that way. These are two different distributions. You kind of have to pick one of them and just go with that. So that's when I decided to go with LazyVim. And not to sound cheesy, but the rest is history. I basically didn't look back from LazyVim. That's also why I didn't um, bother looking into any other distributions. That's why I didn't know that other distributions existed. Like this Astro one, for example. Then there was something to do with Luna. I can't remember what it was. Let me look it up. First, let me look up Kickstart NVim. A launch point for your personal. Okay, the main purpose of Kickstart is to serve as a teaching tool and a reference configuration that someone can easily use to git clone as a basis for their own. So I'm guessing the idea here is that this provides you with like a template essentially, and you build up on this yourself. It's also mentioned here that it's a starting point for NeoVim that is small and is a single file and is completely documented. So it's not a NeoVim distribution, but instead a starting point for, oh shit, I thought this was a distribution. See, that's okay. I didn't bother looking into Kickstart like at all. At the time, all I did was talk to Gemini because, dude, I was heavily discussing this with Gemini. The whole reason why I was able to be patient enough with NeoVim is because I was constantly talking to Gemini about this. And I don't know why I thought that Kickstart was, I mean, in a way, I guess you can consider it a distribution, but it's not really a distribution. It's meant to be a template. It's meant to be, as they mentioned, it's meant to be a starting point for you to learn how to customize NeoVim to your liking. Um, where is, hold on, it's supposed to be a single file, right? But there's init.lua, and then there's a couple of things. How are we meant to install this? Okay, NeoVim's configurations are located under the following paths. Okay, all right, recommended step. Okay, okay. Clone, post installation, start. Okay, where's the installation though? Oh, we're cloning the entire thing. Right, that's why there's a init.lua and then a Lua folder as well. And within the Lua folder, there's a plugins folder because that's where all of your plugins are going to go. Though actually, it's not within Lua. There's within Lua, there's custom slash plugins. Um, and Kickstart is also one of them, and that also has its own plugins folder. But yeah, okay. So just moving away from Kickstart, I decided not to do anything with Kickstart and instead just use lazy vim. I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yeah, so I don't remember the three different ways that Gemini suggested that I could, get a clean slate, but I remember two of them. I don't remember all three. I do remember two of them. One of them was using the clean flag, which I just showed you. If I do this, so this is what it looks like. It's going to give us like a completely vanilla instance of NeoVim. Also, now that I know about buffers, now it makes sense to me what's being displayed at the bottom, because you'll notice you won't notice because you cannot see it. I cannot do anything about that. Well, there's a status bar at the bottom that shows the buffer name, and I mentioned the buffer name. You guys can't even see the buffer. You guys can't even see the command palette at the bottom. It's there. It's just not visible. You guys see the white line? Actually, I think you guys can see it. Hold on. Okay, you can see that I'm typing this. Yeah, you can see that I'm typing this. But then when I exit that thing, you don't see the status line, the status bar anymore. In the status bar, it displays the name of the current buffer. And I did not know about this when I first started using NeoVim, because I didn't really understand the concept of buffers at all, right? Um, so I'm going to open up some O2, and now I'm actually able to switch between these two buffers and the name, which again, you guys can't see it because the status bar is not showing. I could, nah, it's fine. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So let me do it in this way. So this is sum O1 buffer. Um, this is our first buffer. Okay. Then escape write. That's done. That's written. Now we can move to the next buffer. So you can already see there's a difference. When I switch buffers, it now this is sum O2. This is the second buffer. Um, so I'm going to say, and this is sum O2. This is our second buffer. Yeah. So now you can see the two different buffers that I'm switching between. I can also list out the buffers so you can see the list being mentioned there. I didn't know any of this stuff back when I was getting started with NeoVim. I hadn't had the chance to learn any of this, and this is one of the reasons why I feel like I can approach NeoVim, or I can approach teaching NeoVim from a very different point of view, a very different perspective. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who has thought about this. There's a decent chance that there's a bunch of other tutorials that have done this approach, or maybe even better, maybe even a better approach, probably with much, much better editing and maybe a much better, script for the tutorial and stuff. I still want to make my own. I kind of feel like making my own. I haven't made tutorials in a long time, dude. Also, I kind of want to do the entire tutorial on Linux because I already have OBS set up. All I need to do is start the recording. And in this case, because it's a tutorial, so um, I'm gonna have to do proper editing. So I'll have to look into a video editing program as well, which fortunately there are a couple of good open source video editing applications for Linux. At the very least, they give you, you know, the basic functionality, some basic effects and stuff. For me, at the very least, I need to be able to do jump cuts. I don't do any special sort of editing. I don't need to place special text or special effects or whatever into my video. I at the very least need to be able to do jump cuts and then export the video. That's my tutorial. I I don't want to do anything flashy in it. For me the information is much more important. Um, but yeah, I will. I'm considering doing this tutorial to hopefully introduce more people to NeoVim. And yeah, dude. Let's see. I might start working on the syllabus for it because I want to start it in such a way that people are I'll introduce people to NeoVim with this very plain, very bare bones looking editor at first, and once we have done that, then I'll move over to LazyVim. But like we're not going to explore everything in NeoVim. Like to give you an example, NeoVim has or vanilla NeoVim has something called tutor. This is basically a tutorial file that you can go through to learn a lot about the basics of NeoVim. There's I think 6 chapters in total. I don't remember, but like even those chapters are divided into sub chapters. So I'm seeing chapter one. Oh shit! Okay, the chapters have lessons. So there's chapter 1, and within that there's lesson 0, lesson 1.1, 1.2, going, going, it keeps on going, lesson so and so, so and so, so and so, lesson 4, lesson 4, lesson 4, 5, 6, 7, and then there's chapter 2. Yeah, consider continuing with chapter 2. This was intended to give a brief. I never went to chapter 2. There was actually a keyboard shortcut to jump to the file. Like if you have a link to a file, there was a keyboard short. I haven't used that like at all. I've barely been using it. I think I'm pretty sure. What do you call it? I'm pretty sure LazyVim has a thing where I can select a path that I've typed in and I can use some sort of go-to functionality to find the file and open it up. I'll have to look into that. I haven't used that nearly as much because what I do is I'll type colon E and then I'll start typing out the path. And in LazyVim we have that whole, you know, completion thing, and so it gets done. But yeah, there's this tutorial thing. I never even finished this. I barely got to, I don't know, maybe the fourth lesson. I don't even remember. Or maybe barely got to the third lesson because they're teaching you a lot of stuff in here. Keep in mind that this is a very old program. This program is very mature. It's very old. It's been around for a long time. It's been around for a very long time. That's why the program has had the chance to mature so much, and that's why it's so incredibly powerful. And there's like a huge community behind it. That is why. So this, I'm sure over time they, to a certain extent, they've updated this, but keep in mind, like this tutorial, this isn't the only way to learn NeoVim, and it's, I'm pretty sure it's focusing on, or it's assuming that you are on vanilla NeoVim, words. Vanilla NeoVim. Yeah, it's pretty much assuming that you are on vanilla NeoVim that looks like this, very plain, very bare bones, very boring, for lack of a better term. Um, the assumption is that. So I wouldn't really stick with this too much. But the thing is, when you get into NeoVim, there's a bunch of NeoVim specific things that you have to learn, and that tutorial, it does an amazing job of introducing you to all of those things. Like a lot. No, I'm not going to say all, but like it introduces you to a lot of those things. I'm sure if we went to chapter 2 and looked at those lessons and whatever, subsequent chapters are there, we would get to see, almost all of NeoVim being taught. But this one chapter, it does give you a fairly decent introduction to using NeoVim as, at the very least, a text editor. I think it probably also goes into other stuff. I don't know if they mention. Okay, okay, the word explorer is not there. Um, plugin is not there. Um, so I think it's mainly focusing on editing related stuff. Editing, navigating, maybe, okay, does ls get brought up here? Okay, yeah, as an example, type ls following so and so, and then hit enter. This will, oh wait, yeah, that's a way to display the current directory, isn't it? Okay, what happens if I do that? I think it might open a new. Yeah, I think there is. Oh wait, okay. I thought the result was gonna be in a new window, but no, it wasn't. It was. It saved the files. Hold on. Oh, okay. It saved the files. Oh, I think I saved the files at some point. Yeah, yeah. Anyways, I was kind of surprised that it's showing uh like a temporary window kind of thing. I was expecting it to show like split the window and show the results there, and then I have to manually close it. But no, it showed like a temporary window, and then with the next key press, I was able to get rid of that window. Um. Oh yeah, I was mentioning something about what Neo. So okay, wait, back up. We're gonna close this instance of NeoVim, and I'm gonna show you guys. So clean is one way to get like a vanilla instance, right? But that's just a vanilla instance. If you want to have multiple different distributions, um, then you can specify something called nvim app name, which is this. Hold on, temp config, so and so. Yeah, you can specify an environment variable that gets passed in with NeoVim. I don't know whether I should call this an environment variable or something that gets input into NeoVim. I don't think it's being input. I believe this is an environment variable, and when NeoVim starts, then it reads the environment variables, and if it finds this environment variable, then it'll do something with it. So the idea here is that NeoVim in general, it has three directories that it mainly keeps all of its stuff in. One is actually, I can read it out. I don't need to try and remember the thing. Um, and that way I can be sure that I'm also giving, accurate information. Give me a second here. I'm waiting for that conversation to load, and then, where was the convo? I don't think it was this convo. It wasn't this one. Maybe the next one. Uh, key maps. This is not the one either. And I don't think this is the one either. Where did that convo go? Oh, here it is. Okay, so there are three. So what I asked Gemini, my main question to Gemini was, is the NeoVim directory that's within the config folder. Let me show you where that is. Um, if I open up Yahtzee, Okay, if I open up Yahtzee and go home and go into config, um, NeoVim here. This is the NeoVim folder within, this is the NeoVim config folder. There's a bunch of extra stuff here. There's also, within that we have our config folder, which contains key maps and lazy, which is like the lazy Vim related settings. I haven't done anything in options. There was an init.lua thing. I don't remember where that went. I think that's here. So there's an init.lua thing, and within this, it mentions config.lazy, which you can see here, config lazy. So that's being used in init.lua, and then there's the plugins directory in which we have a bunch of plugins that I've manually installed, and in some cases had to also do a bit of a config for, like this one, the slime plugin, which allows us to send data from NeoVim over to something like Tmux or maybe some other program uh, by triggering certain key presses. And additionally, it handles multiple languages from what I remember. I was doing it specifically for Python, and it had a few like extra features in it, where actually it has a lot of extra features because like it's meant for a bunch of different things. It's a fairly sophisticated program, or a fairly sophisticated plugin. For me, I was mainly using it for Python so that I could send blocks of Python code from a Python file open in NeoVim in Tmux, in a Tmux window, in a Tmux session, over to an IPython instance. So I want to send that block of code over to an IPython instance running in another Tmux window, which is running in another Tmux session. So I want to essentially send from one session to another, and Slime makes that pretty easy with, of course, with a tiny bit of config, but it does make it fairly easy, fairly simple for you. Now, back to what I was saying. So there are three directories. I was wondering, I was asking Gemini if the config directory, the NeoVim directory, the words, holy shit, the NeoVim config directory. I was asking Gemini if the NeoVim config directory is the only directory that NeoVim has all of its stuff in. So is all of my NeoVim stuff just just stuffed within this one directory? Turns out no, that's not the case. Gemini said not everything, and that is actually a crucial distinction that trips a lot of people up. That's Gemini's way of talking. Your code changes. Um, that is your init.lua, your options, and your plugin lists live entirely in your config directory. However, NeoVim actually spreads itself across three distinct directories on your system to keep things organized. Um, so the first directory is the config directory, which we just saw. So that's .config/neovim or nvim. The other is the data and plugins directory. That is located in local/share/neovim. So that is, I can open it up now. Local share neovim. So this is another one. This is where um, all the plugins downloaded by lazy.nvim. Lazy is the LazyVim plugin manager. So all the plugins downloaded by lazy.nvim, all the LSP servers downloaded by Mason, and your tree sitter syntax parsers. These are parsers that make sense out of data within our buffer, within like anything that we are typing, any code and stuff like that that's being typed. It's constantly being like analyzed by these things, which is why various programs are able to do stuff like creating a symbols browser. That's all thanks to these kinds of things. They build on top of this these kinds of they build on top of the functionality that's provided by these kinds of plugins. Okay, so that's another directory where nvim, or that's another directory where nvim or neovim stores its stuff. And the third place is state and cache. That is here. Yeah. So in state, we have NeoVim, and according to Gemini, this is where we have our undo history, search/command histories, and your shared data file. Um, so these are three places where NeoVim reads from and writes to. So it's not just one directory, it's not just one location. And so because of this, if you are trying to run a vanilla instance, you're going to have to provide these things, right? Or if you're trying to run a different distribution, you're going to have to tell NeoVim where it can find these specific directories. And the way to do that is let's just do this. Yeah. So the way to do that is we specify this environment variable, and in here we specify a directory name. Now, my understanding, based on what Gemini said, is that this will cause NeoVim to look for these settings in. So it's going to look in those locations where it's supposed to look, but it's going to look for a directory called temp.config or temp-config. It's not going to look for a neovim directory. Let me come down here. Yeah. So exactly what it's gonna look for is, where's my proper neovim instance? Let's open up a new thing here. Exactly what it's going to look for is um, dot config slash, let's say we have named our app temp config. It's going to look for the config related stuff here. It's going to look for data over here, local share, and then temp config. And for state related stuff, it's going to look in state share. Actually, local state, local state, and then temp config. This is what happens when we specify this. And because of this, we would then be able to have multiple different NeoVim configurations, multiple different NeoVim distributions, more or less. And I feel like that's a really powerful feature, dude. Like, imagine being able to seamlessly switch between different NeoVim distributions. Imagine you have LazyVim on one hand, and on the other hand, you have your own custom configuration, your own custom thing where you've I don't know, I can't think of a good example. But yeah, let's just say you've created your own custom configuration, or you've decided to go with, one of the other, many pre-built distributions. You've decided to install that. You can now seamlessly switch between these two. And holy shit, dude, that is just so powerful to me. This program just never ceases to amaze me. The amount of functionality, and I'm going to mention this in the program as well. In the tutorial as well. This is a program that is packed with functionality, but that functionality, it's not usually just available to you very easily. The functionality is, it needs to be exposed through plugins, through configs, through key maps, through a bunch of different things. Because while the program is capable of doing an immense amount of things, not all of that functionality is necessarily key mapped or necessarily exposed to you directly. So sometimes you might have to get to that functionality through like a chain of commands, or through specific by setting specific flags or stuff like that. It's very convoluted. It's not It's not the simplest thing to do. And in general, the I believe the idea is that you want to extend this editor to do something that would seem productive and useful to you, right? You want to extend this editor and turn it into something that makes it a useful editor to you. In my case, turning it into an IDE makes it useful for me because I am looking for an IDE, and Lazy Vim is like I'm not going to say best because I have no reference. I can't, I'm not really the best person to say that, oh, this is the best or that is the best. I will say this, it's, it's probably the simplest way, at least compared to, configuring the entire vanilla NeoVim instance yourself, or the entire NeoVim setup yourself. Just installing LazyVim, the LazyVim distribution, it is immensely simpler compared to configuring it yourself, at least in terms of trying to convert it into a fully functioning IDE that allows you to do a bunch of things like, look at the Explorer and have a which key menu, or um, well, the command palette was already there, so that's not a good example. Another example would be having a tab line kind of thing. Another example would be having this, being able to search for files, having a lot of useful UI. And yeah, dude, it's, where was I going with this? Why was I talking about this? I think I was talking about being able to customize NeoVim. LazyVim is great for this purpose. It's the quickest way to get you to a fully functioning IDE, so you can just start coding in NeoVim. I feel like, okay, for me, I think the best example that I would be able to set. Oh, another thing that we're able to do, which I guess I can show this off as well in the tutorial, is the built-in terminal. So if you have any terminal related commands that you want to execute real quick, you can do that here. In fact, it's not even about executing terminal commands. It's about having a shell, because here you get a shell. Like if I do as a um, tree, we have a shell here. It's not as simple as or it's not as primitive as just, oh, we are executing this command and we're going to get the output of it in very plain text. No, this is a full-on shell that you're executing the commands in. Oh, I guess another thing I'll be able to show off is this, the what do you call it, the cursor trail, because I definitely like this. I'm sure that there's going to be other people that like it as well. One problem that I seem to have um, on the Ubuntu side on this same laptop on which I'm streaming from. One problem I seem to have is that the frame rate isn't necessarily always the best, or I don't know if I'm just used to having a better frame rate on other machines, and so it looks a little slow on this laptop. I have no idea. There's some setting that I have to fix. There's some setting that I have to change. I have no idea what I'm looking for in order to um, improve the frame rate. Actually, dude, I think the reason for that is because I purposely went into the settings and turned off a bunch of things for the sake of saving performance. So I wonder if that's part of it. I wonder if smooth animation versus, slightly choppy animation was part of the performance optimizations that I had done. Yeah, I feel like I should talk to Gemini about that, and see if there's anything I can improve there. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, dude, I'm holy shit, we've been yapping for like 45 minutes. Oh my God. Should I even bother like going through with um the what do you call it? The TOML thing. By the way, dude, after yesterday's stream, I think towards the end of yesterday's stream as well, I realized that I had been looking. Oh yeah, yeah. Now I remembered. Yeah, we did realize this, that I'd been looking at inline tables the wrong way. And the first time that I read this, I didn't realize that I was reading valid TOML. This is TOML. This is TOML. I was like, at the beginning when I read it, I was like, okay, maybe they're trying to show us JSON. So I was like, yeah, okay, this might be valid JSON. But then there was some syntactical issues, right? For to start with, this entire thing is not enclosed or enclosed within two curly braces. Then also there's no commas. Often you would be seeing a comma before it goes to the next line or before the next key slash identifier is printed out. There's going to be commas, and that wasn't there. So I was like, I think maybe they're just trying to give us like a conceptual thing, so they just created their own sort of block of text and it doesn't really mean anything. But no, this is valid TOML. This is all inline tables, and what they were showing us, and I guess I would have understood this if I would have taken the time to read this entire thing. And I feel like more specifically this line, it would have made sense to me, but I jumped the gun. I just started skipping and I was like, okay, yeah, this means this, that means that. And I was the entire time I was just understanding it wrong. The only time I understood it properly was, I think, when I fed it into Gemini, and I asked that, hey, okay, why is so and so. I don't even remember exactly what my question to Gemini was. Where's the conversation gone? Okay, using CRD, updating Rust up. Hold on. What exactly are inline tables? Yeah, when I spoke to Gemini about this, then Gemini mentioned that, okay, so far you've been creating tables using the table header. Inline tables allow you to create entire tables, either on the same line or split up into multiple lines using curly braces syntax. So this is one of the things that I don't think there's too much more to learn here, because I experimented with this a little bit. Um, I guess we can close this now. Yeah, I guess we can close this now. Let's go back to here. So I was trying to set up a bit of a like test inline tables kind of scenario, where I would be like, okay, we have microcontrollers. Under microcontrollers, we have, and microcontrol MCU is a table. Within that, we have an ESP32 table. The ESP32 table is going to have a bunch of other either tables or fields. So I was going to do, you know, I don't even know what I was going to call the original ESP32. Maybe I would just write original there. And then there would be, I don't know, C2, C3, S2, S3, I think that H3 as well, C3 super mini. I was gonna create stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I think for the most part, I understand the idea behind these. I can't really think of too much right now, so I think I'll just stick with the fruit the fruit example. Um, in fact, let's get rid of this as well. Okay, we are gonna say um, stuff. Okay, that's our table. Within that table, we have animals. Dot dog. Should it be animals or animal? I think it's animal, because it's meant to be like a category kind of thing, right? It's meant to be a classification kind of thing. Well, category. Um, Dog, we can give it we can give it a name. Let's say, oh, well, yeah, okay, okay. We can give it a name. We can say, I don't know. Let's go with the old name, Tyler. All right. Then we have animal dot hamster, I guess. And we can give this a name. Let's call it Max, I guess. Then we can say food dot this, and it's important to note the dot notation. Um, is this okay now? Oh, my bad. My bad. I forgot this is not JSON. We do not need trailing. Oh shit, it messed the entire thing up. Uh, get rid of that and get rid of that. Are we not good? Hold on. What am I doing wrong here? A new line is not allowed in an inline table. What do you mean new line is not allowed? No, it's allowed. It should be allowed. Am I missing something here? I feel like I'm missing something here. I feel like I'm missing something here. Hold on. I'm gonna let's turn off. Oh, no, you know what? Let's copy this entire block. Okay, yank. So I'm learning about inline tables here. It says new it says no new lines allowed. Okay, the golden rules of inline tables. You know what? Yesterday, when I was reading that, for some reason I thought that inline tables are allowed. But yesterday, when I was reading about inline tables through this conversation, and for some reason I thought inline tables were or new lines were allowed. I was thinking back to the cargo TOML file that I had opened up, and I remember in the past when I tried to add a new line because I didn't know TOML syntax, right? But I was trying to make some changes in the cargo TOML thing, and there were a couple of extra like keys that I had to add to a specific table, and because it was all going off screen, the line was very long, so I was like, okay, let me split this up into new lines, and immediately something is complaining about some sort of syntax issue relating to new line. It says no trailing commas. Where did I read that you could do trailing commas? Hold on now, wait. It says here inline tables can have multiple keys on the same line, or they can be put on different lines. A terminating comma, also called trailing comma, is permitted after the last key value pair. Right, I'm confused about this. Hey, are you sure about the no new lines and no trailing commas thing? Here is my uh, TOML code. Tell me why it's not working. Okay, look closely at the error messages in your parser. Look closely at the error messages your parser is spitting out. Your parser is explicitly failing because of the new lines you introduced inside those curly braces. To clarify, TOML version 1.0 forbids new lines inside inline tables. Your parser sees you hitting the enter key after so and so. Note there is a what version are we on? We are on 1.1. Let's go back to 1.0 and see if this is still a thing there. Um, Inline table, there's different information here. It's in 1.1. Okay, they introduced a change here in 1.1. Now, hold on. I have a important because like now I need to figure out whether I should be following TOML version 1 or 1.1. Hey, so I'm learning TOML um, to be able to use it in Rust and Python. I started by learning v1.1.0. Um, there might be a few changes between that version and v1.0.0. The thing is, no, what am I trying to say here? Okay, one of those changes is inline tables are allowed to have new lines and trailing commas. New lines are allowed to have, no, inline tables are allowed to have new lines and commas. Yo, give me a second. Okay, yeah. They're allowed to have new lines and trailing commas. This has me wondering which one I should be learning and whether further down the road I might have issues here and there figuring out which TOML version is being used. For example, I believe Rust, or well, let's just say in the past, I've had Rust cargo TOML file throw an error when I tried to add a new line, in the inline table. I don't know if that's changed since then or not. Let me also Google, while I'm at it, let me also Google Rust um, cargo TOML version. Because it was, holy shit, what was that? Because it is possible. Wow. What a fumble, dude. Yeah. Because it's possible that because like I'm constantly updating, my Rust tool chain. I recently updated Rust up with it updated like the tool chains which were necessary to be updated. It also updated its own components. More importantly, it updated Rust C, which is a Rust compiler. Um, so I don't know if maybe, you know, in the newer versions of the tool chain, they've started using the later version of TOML, because that's a possibility as well. And unless you have like backwards compatibility reasons, if you're starting a new project, decent that there's a decent chance that you're probably going to be on the latest version of Rust. I could be wrong about that. I should look into what are situations other than, very long-term projects that obviously require stability, obviously require to be on a fixed version. Um, Other than that, what other situations would you have where you need to? Anyways, okay, let's see what Gemini says. You definitely didn't hallucinate the error. Under TOML 1.0, inline tables, the ones wrapped in curly braces, were strictly mandated to be on a single line. Adding a new line or a trailing comma would immediately cause cargo to throw a fit, saying error so and so, so and so. However, things have changed. Rust updated Rust's internal parser to officially support TOML 1.1.0. If you are running a current version of Rust, you can now format your dependencies with trailing commas and multi-line structures without a hitch. Okay, now in the case of Rust, wait, so because TOML 1.1.0 is a relatively recent standard, you will encounter a split environment. You will encounter a split environment depending on the ecosystem you are working in. This is exactly where your potential version confusion will happen down the road. So for Rust, you have a green light. Cargo handles TOML 1.1 beautifully. Even if, no, even better, when you publish a crate to crates.io, Cargo automatically normalizes your cargo.toml file into a widely compatible older format. So your use of 1.1 features won't break things for people consuming your library. Then in Python, it's more of a yellow light. Python's built-in toml lib. I didn't know Python had a built-in toml lib. That's crazy. I didn't know that, dude. Okay. Python's built-in toml lib module introduced in 3.11 and carried through 3.14. I'm on 3.13. Okay. Is explicitly pinned to TOML 1.0.0 specification. While the community is actively working on transitioning to 1.1, core packaging tools that rely on the standard library will fail if they hit a multi-line inline table in your pyproject.toml. Which version should you learn? Okay, so here's the thing. I'm using nvim, lazyvim to do my TOML coding. The idea is to type out the TOML code in a file, wait, in a file, and then parse it using, give me a second. Oh shit, dude, I just noticed the time. Holy shit. And then parse it using, parse it using the TOML crate. Oh, parse it to JSON using the TOML crate, using the TOML and CRD JSON crates. In NeoVim, I believe it's Tableau that's um, watching over the syntax and stuff, or maybe it's something else, but something is giving me this error, uh, meaning it's stuck at version 1.0.0. How do I fix this? I wonder if it's as simple as just me updating all the plugins in LazyVim. Okay, you nailed it. Tableau is a language server protocol, and formatter that LazyVim spins up automatically when you open a TOML file. The underlying issue is that Tableau's internal parser is strictly pinned to TOML 1.0.0 specification, even if you update NeoVim, Mason, or Tableau binary to the latest version. Tableau currently does not support the newly released TOML 1.1.0 syntax features like trailing commas and new inlines. No, trailing commas and new lines inside inline tables. Because Tableau evaluates the file. You know what? Okay, no, I would have to stop Tableau from reformatting the entire file when there's because Tableau kind of breaks the entire thing. When there's an error, this is something that's a tiny bit annoying because if there's an error and I hit save, now the keys are all messed up. The keys were supposed to be in like name was supposed to be in dog, right? And then the lower name was supposed to be in hamster. Now there's two keys named name, but and they're both within stuff. They're not within, you know, dog or hamster. And I'm like, the only thing I can do is undo it and then fix my error and then come back to this. So it's kind of a weird workflow. Holy shit, dude. I forgot about the time. Dude, you know what I'm going to do? Today, for sure, I'm finishing this entire thing. I'm going to finish learning inline tables completely. Sure, it's great that we found out about this issue. We've now, gotten to the bottom of why we are getting this error. It's not an issue on my part. It's just a difference in the version. So we were learning the very latest version, but the majority of okay, I'm not going to say majority. Well, we were learning the latest version, but like in some places, the older version is still being used. So I'm gonna stick to this older version for now. The great thing is, so far, I haven't really seen too many differences between the older version and the newer version, aside from this, I'm sure there are some differences. That's why we have like a newer version. I guess I can find a way to like diff the the changes between them. But yeah, yeah. You know what? That's gonna be it for today's stream. I'll stream again tomorrow. I'll try to start the stream early. I'll try my best. But yeah, dude. Yeah, we'll stream again tomorrow. I'll also try my best to finish this entire thing because we have inline table here, and then next we have arrays or array of tables. This is a concept that I definitely need to look into because in the past I did not understand what the double square brackets meant, and now I wanted to. Um, hold on. That's interesting. Gaming minus minus. I like that. I like that. Gaming minus minus. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. Hey, I wanted to share something because I'm also a programmer and you are too. I I think you'd appreciate it. I'm getting pet rats and I'm naming them Bit, Bite, and Nibble. I like that. I like that. Welcome to the stream. Hello, hello. For some reason, this joke got flagged by Automod. Uh, I have no idea why. But yeah, hello, welcome to the stream. I'm unfortunately ending right now, but feel free to follow and if you want to hang out at the next stream, then you're welcome. But yeah, yeah, that's gonna be it for today's stream. Uh, I'll be streaming tomorrow, and I'll try to start earlier. Thank you for the follow, and thank you again for stopping by. Gaming minus minus. But yeah, that's going to be it for today's stream. I hope you guys have a nice day, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.